has beaten Tiger Tara. Some terrific sights there from Christchurch Casino New Zealand Cup Week. Very good evening, everyone. Welcome into your box seat, brought to you in association with Woodlands. Of course, it is a 90-minute Cup Week special. Michael Guerin, you were down in Christchurch again for another wonderful carnival, and some of the racing on the track, we get a chance to reflect on it tonight because it was superb.
Evening, Grego. Big hi to everybody. I hope you have rehydrated after the big week. It's an incredibly tiring week, isn't it? But in a great way. It feels like you've been to a huge party. And we're going to touch on last Tuesday first. And I thought it was a great New Zealand Cup day. I'm not sure what ingredients make for that, because it's easy to think because the Cup was a close finish, that's what it could be. But it felt hyped, Greg. I'm not sure how it felt for you before the Cup. I'm not sure why. The crowd was very big and the weather was very good. The national anthem, for some reason, just really resonated. And then when Tiger Tara, we'll show you this later, takes off down the back straight, the crowd went crazy, which is something you see very rarely mid-race in New Zealand. So look, Addington got it right last week. I'm not sure what they got right or more right than last year or the year before. I'm not sure why the dynamic worked. But gee, it worked. But I'm sure you at home, plenty of you, the last couple of days have been nodding off to sleep a little bit earlier than you usually do at night time, because I know he has.
Yeah, no doubt. 23-odd thousand people there on track. We've got heaps to get through tonight, and we need the full 90 minutes, I can promise you that. We'll obviously look at the big one, the Group 115th running of the Christchurch Casino New Zealand Cup. We'll chat to head of the ROU Harness Division and Nick Ergren about a couple of issues during the week. The gun run, yes, Ultimate Snipers, brilliant performance to win the Sire Stakes. We had a horse win his 8th Group 1, Speeding Spur, brilliant winner of the New Zealand Trotting Free-for-All. We'll talk to a bloke who's doing his day job outside of winning Group 1s during Cup Week. And Cruise Control, yes, Cruise Bromac was nothing short of outstanding when winning the Free-for-All. But the day, and what a magnificent day it was from our point of view from trackside, Michael, to get these types of shots, and obviously the overhead shot in the Cup, which told a different story to what we would normally see from the side on. Some of the vision out of the day was just blowing your mind stuff.
I thought all three codes did themselves really proud. I mean, the dog night, the big night for the Cup on Thursday was really well done. Addington doesn't surprise you that the 2 days are so big, but I thought Riccarton came across really well. They had a genuinely good horse turn up there in Te Akau Shark, which really helped their carnival. I thought the whole week was outstanding. Yeah, it's helped by the weather, no doubts about that. But I think it's a funny thing for people to watch when they watch. A lot of people said to me in the last couple of weeks, gee, I enjoy Cup Day watching it, or blah, blah, blah. There's nothing to do with the presenters. But that's something people have to take into mind. Like, you see this, and you see Karakamilin, and you see the Hawke's Bay Carnival, and you see what's going to happen unfolding at Auckland on, for example, Boxing Day. These are things the industry is threatened of losing if they outsource a TAB. Not many get too serious about it, but people don't think about this. Like, that's the best version of our product, and I'm not saying it'd disappear, but almost certainly it would disappear, that sort of coverage. And there's more important things in life than television coverage, there's no doubts about that. But unless you have those highs, which I sort of relate to, say, like the All Blacks, then it's really easy to start losing interests in the sport as a sport rather than a gambling medium, Greg. And it's funny, so many people said to me last week, or even myself, I watched a couple of the days at Riccarton because I wasn't attending, and you're like, gee, that's good. Gee, I really enjoyed that. Well, that's under threat.
It's a big risk.
It's true, and it's only a very small part of the outsourcing agreements and all that sort of stuff. But once you give control of your industry to another country, which is what people are talking about, what you saw last week doesn't exist anymore. It exists for those on track. But that feel-good And I'm a great believer, Greg, I really am, and I'm a yearling sales buyer at a relatively serious level. That feel-good's one of the things that lures you in. And if you want people to keep going back to the sales, like Sarah Green, who owned Media Sensation, winning the 1,000 guineas the other day, or the people who buy those horses at the harness sales, you want people to keep going to those sales. They're not going to win races at Timaru. That's not what they're doing it for. They're doing it for the dream they're going to be there, and that's going to be them on that camera. And it's one thing to consider when you think about where the future of New Zealand racing lies.
The great race itself, the 115th running of the Christchurch Casino New Zealand Cup. We'll get Mark Mack to bring it home because this battle up the straight is one for the ages.
Quarter, 27.3. Dream About Me leads ahead. Tiger Tara, he's gone to her. Next to the inside, the Fixer. Tiger Tara leads at a neck. On the inside is Dream About Me and the Fixer. Tiger Tara, the Fixer's coming through on the lane. The Fixer is going to win the New Zealand Cup and O's. The Fixer has beaten Tiger Tara. Dream About Me third. Fourth over Cruz Bromack, then Eamon Maguire, Jack's Legend.
So just the second time, Michael, that 354 has been beaten. Obviously, Lazarus holds the record, 353 won. And this home straight battle, we saw Dream About Me. It was probably almost like a mobile race in terms of how we all came up with the same prediction. Shared lead, the Fixer would probably trail and Tiger Tara had come round and sit parked, and that's exactly how it unfolded.
And there were two stories everybody was talking about straight after the race. Well, let's get to the winner first, because it won. For this horse to be so inexperienced, and he came back to racing this season, the veteran of just 11 starts, and to then have a setback. And when he had that setback and he finished third in the Canterbury Classic, I think it was, I was like, nah, do you want to back him in the Cup? But they're such good trainers.
It was in the New Brighton Cup.
New Brighton Cup. And they got him back. Sure, he needed everything to go right, but this is only his 16th start. And to do this at your 16th start against a true warrior like Tiger Tara is a hell of a thing. And he's not a big horse. He needs to try really, really hard to win races, and that's what he did. So, to all involved there, fantastic.
Yep.
And then the other story was Tiger Tara. Quite clearly, everybody who has any admiration for the equine at all just watched that and went, wow, how good was he? And that's not saying that others in behind him. Dream About Me was very brave. Cruz Bromack a touch unlucky. Lots of other horses performed really well, Greg. But it's one of the few times I've left the racetrack and thought, if we could split this Cup today, I'd be very comfortable with the second horse getting part of it too.
Yep, agreed. Out of Tosti Girl, the Fixer, sixth foal, he is. I think the best performed prior to that was Sir Tosti Mark, who won about 5 races here before being exported. He's won over 500,000. The Connections, obviously the Kennards had good success in the Cup the previous 2 years, so that's a bit of a record, winning 3 in a row as part of the ownership group. We talked about John Magnus and his involvement in the sport over such a long period of time. Another great facet to it. And of course, Natalie Rasmussen, about the only big race she didn't have locked away in her cabinet.
And she couldn't have driven any better. Manners are a crucial factor, and that gave her the option to drive the horse as well. I'll be perfectly honest, I think your big Cruz Bromack, where this horse was, he would have gone close to winning, even though he's not a natural 2-miler. It was a great Cup because it was suspenseful, but there was just a lot of noise and hype on track, and it just felt like a big experience. It's a little bit like the Melbourne Cup. I think it doesn't really matter who wins the New Zealand Cup, and we said this last 2 weeks ago on the show beforehand. You know there's going to be a great story involved, and as I said, the Fixer's story got a little bit superseded by the performance of Tiger Tara, but this is a remarkable thing he's done, because most horses come through the Derbies, Greg, or the Jewels, and he did race in the Jewels, he finished 4th, but that's where they come through to win these big races. Very, very few horses don't win the big Group 1s early doors and go on to win these races. And that was his first Group 1. In fact, the first race he's ever won worth more than 40k. So,
which is another remarkable stat.
And you go back through the other horses behind him, Tiger Tara, Derby winner, Sire Stakes winner, Dream About Me won the Jewels at 2, all that sort of stuff. All the other horses in play were horses who were young stars. He took a totally different path. And there's Phil Kennard, and some people would say, oh, the Kennards have won it before, but the money they put into the industry, Greg, goes into the pockets of breeders, which goes into the pockets of stallion owners, goes into the pockets of the sales industry and float drivers and farriers and all sorts of stuff. They pay
Also
a lot
to
of
Mrs.
bills.
Gillen and Mr. Fleetwood as well, involved in the ownership. You know, first cup experience, I'm pretty sure for them. Obviously for John Magnus it was. It's just a wonderful story, and it's shared by a whole lot of people, which I think is pretty cool too.
Yep, it was. And obviously Mark and Natalie did a super job, but that's now just become the norm.
You also talked about Bunty Hughes.
There's Johnny getting
yes,
the cup.
there he is. Good luck to him. The old stores out there on the Great South Road.
One of the more popular guys in harness racing, because win, lose or draw is the same bloke every week.
Never changes.
Never changes.
No.
Even his ads don't change.
No, they, well, they do it a little bit, but
And
the stores are in the same place.
And Brian Hughes and his breeding cohorts in this horse. Like Bunty's always been a very good judge. He's always been an outstanding horseman for as long as I can remember, which is going back to choking. So it doesn't surprise me he's bred a cup winner, but it's important to acknowledge that as well.
Michael, we come to the all-important start of the race.
Which one? There are two of them.
Let's have a look at the proper one. There it is. And most got away, take two. That wasn't the case in take one, and we'll get to that in a moment. Eamon Maguire getting himself caught up in the tapes. Now, I know your thoughts on this, and we're going to hear from Nick Ergren very shortly about how the start was in his eyes and what he thinks of standing starts and how he believes they should be conducted. So it'll be interesting to hear what he says. You said on the day it's simply not good enough. I'm sure your thoughts haven't changed.
They were walking up for the first start, which was proven to be a false start. And yes, I don't have the same view that the starter has. I'm not as close to them, but the television coverage is pretty good. Most of us see relatively what's going on. When they were walking up, there was a point there where I think everybody thought to themselves, let him go, and off we go. And that point passed, and Eamon Maguire then walked further forward and touched the tape, and that caused the false start. And then the second attempt at the start looked exactly the same to me, but they went earlier. Now, let's hear from Nick, because you put these specific questions to him, and then I want to talk about not what you and I think, because people hear what you and I think all the time, what the feedback we are getting from the horse people is. Here's Nick Ergren.
Nick, plenty of discussion around the standing starts, and in particular the open class races leading into this year's New Zealand Cup, and unfortunately things didn't pan out how we all wanted.
No, I mean there was obviously there's talk going into every carnival about the starts and how we're going to address them and such. There was a couple of big name horses miss away, and I think that's probably got people talking, but I didn't see it as a major issue over the carnival.
Talk to me about take one of this year's New Zealand Cup though, and Eamon Maguire, and you've got some interesting anecdotes to that and what that horse is like and the difficulty that Blair Orange had.
Yeah, so when obviously at the time there was the first false start, and then we had a brief discussion with Peter Lamb, and you have the next false start. There's not a lot of time in between where we can sit down and analyse what's happened, so we go back over that afterwards, and we did speak with Mr Orange about his role in that as to whether he had attempted to anticipate the start. But looking at those films that we had, we were satisfied that Eamon Maguire had been difficult for him, and thrown its head on several occasions and lunged. The other two horses had moved up with him, which may have worsened the situation for him, and Mr Orange advised that he did have significant difficulty with that horse. So we were satisfied at the end of the day that horse's manners were the reason for the barrier striking that horse on the way across. The barrier then got caught around the horse. Peter Lamb couldn't see where it had got caught, only that it had been caught, and so thankfully he did call them back.
We're showing some footage now, Nick, where at the same point the second time, if the horses had been let go the first time, which was about 8 to 10 metres back from the barrier, but they were all moving forward, then that situation wouldn't have occurred. I guess that's what people are looking at and saying, well, why was it good enough the second time to do that and not the first?
Sure, and my thoughts on this are sometimes we perhaps we get too focused on whether we need to have a stand or a walk-up start. My feelings are that the objective of the starter should be to get as many horses away on level terms as possible, whether that's from a stand or a walk-up. And I think sometimes we focus too much on which one it's going to be, where if we've got either situation occurring where it looks like we're going to get the majority of the field away, then let's do it. Let's let them go. But and that might be at the expense of doing it in a consistent manner all the time. Let's not pin ourselves down to one particular start type, and let's just do the best to get as many horses away as possible.
So that was Nick Ergren on the starts. First of all, your initial reaction to what he had to say there.
I think what I think doesn't matter as much as what punters think, and definitely not as much as what the horse people think. It's a good attitude to have that we should try and get as many horses away as we can, Gregory, but there has to be some consistency. Now, if I'm a punter, and I like to have a play, my confidence in standing starts is now so low, I very rarely bet in them. And I would suggest I probably know more about harness racing form than half the people watching this program. Because I don't know what actually happens anymore at the starts of races. At the dogs, they put the dogs in the boxes, the box then goes up and the dogs leave.
Yeah, but you can't compare it, Michael, because one is in a fixed structure and the thoroughbreds have exactly the same.
But
we've got
exactly,
half a ton of horse with straps around their legs walking forward, and you're asking them to run as fast as they possibly can. It's never the same.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is, when you're out there punting, you have the option to bet on 1,000 gallops races and 1,000 greyhound races. So then if I'm say you're a $1,000 player, why would you choose the trots? Why do you choose them anymore? Because I know how they're going to start at the other place, and then if I'm stupid enough to back the loser, well, that's just bad luck. But when I don't know whether it's going to be a walk-up start, which I seem to favour, and I thought they were walking up perfectly fine in the first attempt. Old Orlando at the back was hanging around, but he's
on the unruly.
But also, you can't not start the race because one horse is mucking around, because that's that horse's fault. So what we had horses walking up and we didn't start the race. And then the next time they're walking up, we did start the race. Now, if I'm a serious punter, or even if I'm a $5 punter, because some people, that's all the money they've got to lose, Greg, they want consistency. Everybody wants consistency with gambling. It's the crucial factor. And our drivers, and I've spoken to a lot of drivers since last week, they range from disappointed to flat out angry. Angry about the fact that these starts aren't consistent. And this is countrywide. They are angry with the Canterbury starts. So they're walking up here, let them go. The only horse in this picture, the top picture we're talking about, is Ultra Orlando is mucking around. So you let them go. So why isn't this happening? Now, Cruz Bromac was first out in the first standing start.
He
Try
leads.
telling me Cruz Bromac wouldn't have been in the trail behind Dream About Me, and therefore maybe the cup winner. So punters, I understand what Nick is saying, and yes, getting a good standing start is the most important. But how can we be the only one of the three codes who don't at least try to have a consistent rule? And the problem is also that when the starter in Canterbury, who is Peter Lamb, I'm not scared to name him, there's no big secret here, we all know who he is, there seems to be a disconnect between him and the horse people. There's no doubt about that, because the horse people keep telling me this. I don't know their relationship, but they keep telling me that he won't tell them whether it's a walk-up or it's a stand. And there's one other issue here which I'm going to raise, because no one else is going to raise it. Peter's on the RIU, and there is a general disconnect between the RIU and the drivers at the moment. Whether people want to talk about it or not, it's still true. There is. Bigger than it's ever been. And I think those relationships are breaking down to the point where people are losing confidence in standing starts, and the horse people are losing confidence in standing starts. Now, this isn't the opinion of the racing board, this is my personal opinion, but it's not something I've made up, Greg. This is after talking to dozens of people last week. And I think that one of those situations has become untenable.
In a thoroughbred sense, I've seen it before big races. All the jockeys are brought into a room and they have a chat, and there's clear culpability, if you like, of this is $1 million race or whatever. You guys need to understand that if you break the rules, it will be more severe, etc. Right? That I don't ever remember that happening in harness racing. Why could that not happen? Okay. So the standing start for the New Zealand Cup is a big race, fellas. Don't take the mick here, otherwise you'll cop the wrath. What's wrong with that?
It's not the starter's job to police people trying to get a run at the start. That's the Stop Henry steward's job. Post-race. If you believe someone has infringed, it's your job that when they're walking up to let them go, because if every time you pull one back when a horse misbehaves, there's 15 horses in these races.
So do we know at any point, Michael, at any point after what happened at Ashburton, it was better at Kaikoura, I'd have to admit, did anyone say, should we sit down with the horseman and say, this is how the New Zealand Cup should be started? Nothing. Zero. No correspondence.
There's a disconnect.
Yep.
There is clearly a disconnect here. And there is also questions being asked. I don't care about this as much as some of the other people because it's not my money on the table. I didn't have a bet in the New Zealand Cup for that reason. But you've got to ask whether the RIU will rightfully question or fine one of their own. It's a fair question to ask.
It is a fair question.
It's a fair question to ask. Now I'll put this back to you. You're married to a trainer who drives, and therefore you interact with people in a social atmosphere. You're related to some of these people who are involved in this. What is the general vibe you're getting? Because this can't just be the Mick Guerin blah, blah, blah. What's the vibe you're getting out of this whole situation?
The disconnect is definitely there. Absolutely no doubt about that.
So what happens next?
Well, it has to be addressed. And whether that comes from a club level, because they actually employ, at this stage they employ the starter. So they have the choice, if you have a starter's licence, you can start races. It doesn't have to be, in this case, Peter Lamb throughout Christchurch, or you can employ any starter you like. I think at some stage one of these clubs is going to have to, will make a decision and say, no, that's not, we want this person there. I can't be any more honest than that.
Well, the key factor is this. The horse people aren't happy with what's going down.
That's it. We'll leave that there for now, and I'm sure it will be addressed. We need to hear from the beaten drivers out of this year's New Zealand Cup.
You know, it's a bit of a bittersweet sort of second for us there. I think, you know, we were so close but so far away. I just, around the turn there, I was trying to work out when was the right time to hit the go button on him, and I was trying to time it to sort of, you know, catch the leader and hold Nat off at the same time. But full credit to, you know, the Purden team. They were, you know, such a dominant team on these big days and so hard to beat. So we were wrapped with the horse and the work he'd done in the race getting around. You know, I don't think we could ask for any more from him. So we're super proud of him, and he takes home a little bit of money.
Yeah, look, Matt, it was obviously pleasing the way she got the start and was able to work away to the front, and, you know, we had it on our terms, and we sort of rolled along a pretty even clip, and, you know, on the day there was two better, but, you know, credit to her, she kept sticking her head out right to the line, and, you know, just really proud of her.
Yeah, very happy with his run, Matt. If he was one place closer, I think he'd have been, you know, right in the finish, but still very happy with his performance.
Yeah, look, Matty's got a pretty good race, mate. You know, he cut from a wee way back, followed Jack's Legend into it, and, you know, to his credit, he was taking ground off them late, and, you know, run a very credible fifth.
I thought he had his chance, Matt. Yeah, he got a nice run, and he battled in the run home. He went good, really, but not good enough.
I think from where we were 2 weeks ago, like his performance at Kaikoura was pretty average, to come out today and pace 353 for 2 miles was a pretty good effort. Tony said that he felt real good till about the 300. Then he just blew out the last 100 metres. He only just lost fifth in the shadows of the post. I think all in all, I'm happy. But yeah, we do have a little bit of work to do.
5 runners, Robert. Billy Badger first of all. Yeah, well, he missed away at the start, which was a bit unfortunate, really, and that was his race. He had to begin quickly from out wide and, you know, in the front line, and he didn't. And so he went an honest race, but missing away, that was sort of his race.
Captain Domio?
Pulled too hard, worked too hard early and pulled too hard afterwards until Tiger came round. Nate wasn't disappointed, but he said just the first bit he really pulled hard outside the leader and did a bit of work to get there. So just sort of still struggling to get right on top of that horse, but he went an honest race.
Let's spend a night together.
The other 3 horses are all second line draws, Matt, and they just were back and going 53, you just can't be back. It was a pleasing run. Jim was wrapped with him. Ran on really strongly from back in the field, so we were pleased with his run and the best of our runners.
And the last two, Zadaka and Alta Orlando.
Well, Zadaka just outclassed. He was slow away from the second line and was back again. So you can't do it in big races with horses that are just aren't at the top of their game. So he went another honest race, and Alta Orlando just had to work up a little bit 3 wide, and once again couldn't get into the race and just battled late in the piece. So it was one of those races, Matt, with horses that needed good runs. None of them really got a good run, and that was sort of how the race unfolded for us.
Well, he missed away again, so that was the end of me, to be fair. But he ran up straight all right. Beat a fish grade in his own, but he got no show when he missed away.
Great work by Matt Cross throughout both days there at Addington. He obviously had a huge week being at Riccarton too, but he got some incredible insight there, for example, of how the drivers felt they went in the Cup. I did speak to Nick about Eamon Maguire in particular, and Natalie had actually said to me earlier in the week she was going to talk to Blair about if you touch his mouth, he can be really funny, and that's what happened when he lunged forward. He just tried to hold him up a wee bit, and I'm not trying to defend it at all, but that was part of the reason why he ended up in the tape, so that's important. Also spoke to Kevin Chapman about Lockerburn. Now he's going to Australia. You're going to update us on all of the Cup runners.
Later on we'll talk about where all the horses are going.
To Shane
after the free-for-all.
He said to me, I think the Cup should go to 2600 mobile, but I just don't agree with that at all, because no quarter in the New Zealand Cup, Michael, was run in less than 30 seconds, and the majority of horses in the race couldn't move, but Tiger Tara, obviously, at that speed and then still be there at the end. So if they did that over 2600 mobile, they'd land in the same spot and they'd run even faster. We've seen them go 3.5 in a derby, so I don't see the Cup ever changing distance-wise, and it will not change from a stand.
No, it won't. No, the Cup is...
It's unique. That's what it is.
It's close to perfect. It's there's not many races in the country that are exactly what they need to be. The New Zealand Galloping Derby is exactly what it needs to be.
The Auckland Club tried 2700 mobile and went back to 2 miles. So
exactly right. It's exactly what it needs to be. We just need to start it better, and that just comes down to consistent protocols, what we put in place, and that's by no means potting what was a wonderful race. We're just talking about it because it's an issue which everybody else has been talking about. It was a great race. It really was. And 3 or 4 weeks ago, there was a lot of people saying it's going to be a crap field and this is going to happen and it won't be the same. And then Chicago Bull went by the wayside because he flipped upside down. And then Ultimate Machete left us. And you go, oh, man. And there were people were annoying me saying, oh, this is going to be a rubbish cup. It's remarkable. It was a great cup. And it actually had more hype than Lazarus winning it, and that raises the old question: is having a champion there, because everybody loves to see a champion, better, or is it better to have an evenly matched bunch of horses? And I think a little bit of both is good, but if you have the same thing all the time, it becomes a bit repetitive.
The other discussion point out of the Cup on Tuesday was, of course, the excess use of the whip and the first and second drivers being charged. So I also spoke to Nick Ergren about that. Nick, from the RIU's point of view, the Cup Carnival appeared to go pretty smoothly.
Yeah, it was a good week, Greg. Just a couple of minor matters coming out of the Cup and one from the Dominion. But other than that, no, it was a very good week.
A lot of talk in the industry about the current whip regulation and the fact that the first and second horses home in the New Zealand Cup this year, both drivers were fined. And Natalie Rasmussen's had a string of these, to be fair, over the last sort of 3 to 4 weeks. But we need to clarify a few things around this, and it is a regulation brought in by Harness Race New Zealand to start with, and the RIU are only administering those rules, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. So HRNZ bring in the rule, and that's done in conjunction with the horsemen and the RIU, and that's what we get given on race day to deal with.
So first and second home, the third horse being Dream About Me, Tim Williams, didn't break that rule. A few people have said to me, on the racetrack, why wasn't there an inquiry? But our current rules and regulations don't allow for that situation to occur.
No, and there's other issues associated with that, Greg. And for mine, probably the first one is that, probably contrary to public opinion, we don't sit there and count to 10 each driver after each race. There's a myriad of other things we have to look at first. And specifically with protests, we have a short time frame we're working within. We're looking at interference, and that's what the protest rule is premised around. We don't have time to sit there and count every driver to make sure they've complied with the rule, potentially looking at a protest situation. Now, it's not the favoured way in any jurisdiction that I know of around the world, and I don't support that going forward here.
And in the Cup situation, you'd have to prove that you would have beaten the other horse home, and that would simply not be possible.
No, it would be difficult to quantify how much 1 or 2 extra tries with a whip would advantage a horse, because, and you being a horseman, you know, Greg, that sometimes horses don't respond well to the whip and they go the other way. So to sit there and say he's used the whip 2 more times and that equates to a neck or a half length or a head or a nose, but we're not sure, and it's not an exact science, so it's murky waters.
Going forward then, have we got this regulation right? In the thoroughbred code, it's 5 on, 5 off, last 100 metres. There's no limitation, if you like, for want of a better term. And this is, again, it's probably your personal opinion as much as it's the RIU's opinion. Have we got this regulation right, or should we adopt something similar to the thoroughbred code?
Yeah, I mean, we'll at the end of the day, we'll deal with what's put in front of us. And if the industry dictate that the rule needs changing, the regulation needs changing, that's fine. We'll work with that, and that's our role on the day. But my personal opinion is that I would be slightly loath to go to a form or an allowance of indiscriminate use of the whip over the 100 metres or so. I know, looking at some past replays of New Zealand Cups where there wasn't a lot of emphasis put on whip control, I did find myself looking at those and thinking we'd come a long, long way with the use of our whips. And you only have to look at a lot of drivers' use to see how much they have modified it. And for mine, it's a far better look the way they are using their whip these days.
The way a horse is struck with the whip is something that maybe some drivers need to look at. And a good example was Terry Schmiel in the last heat of the Sire Stakes. I at first look thought, well, he's excessively used the whip there, but it was in an upward motion as opposed to striking down.
Yeah, sure. And we put a video out once the rule did change in conjunction with HRNZ to assist drivers, and that's there on their website for people to see. But the upward motion that you're talking about that Mr. Schmiel uses, and another advocate of it is Blair Orange, where we say to the junior drivers, go away and have a look at their action if they are in trouble with the whip, because it's a good example of sort of upwards pushing and through the tail where we don't classify that as a strike, and hence there was no action taken against Mr. Schmiel.
And Nick, the force of a strike with the whip is another area where surely we're trying to have a deterrent against that.
Yeah, exactly. And that is what we are trying to move away from. So there was a driver spoken to over the carnival regarding their force, and there's an allowance for us in that regulation to look at the force of a driver's whip, and it is something that we will be focusing on.
And a big thanks to Nick. That was on the Monday after Cup week, so an enormous week for the RIU as well. But I thought he gave a pretty clear and open indication of where things sit there.
I think he's a good steward. I really do. I think it helps that he's been around horses his whole life. A couple of things we'll get through. First of all, it didn't change the result of the race because they both did it. Secondly, they got fined an appropriate amount. Natalie more because she is a repeat offender, but she's not a repeat offender who bashes horses. Probably she's just ultra competitive. I don't mind what I saw there. What I saw, when I look at that Cup picture, I don't see anything as a horse lover that makes me go, oh, gee, I don't like that. It's when it starts getting at the back here and you start clubbing them. 5 of those is way worse than 12 of those. There's no doubt about that. Well done, Terry Schmiel, by the way. Smart driving. We'll get to Terry later on. But Greg, I think what people find offensive, when you're watching a race, whether you've got the little love taps going on or when someone's getting at the back here. And that's what upsets me as a horse lover, when somebody's getting the shoulder right back. The other stuff in that Cup finish, I thought that was more than fair. I thought it was dealt with appropriately. It's a tough one for the stewards, but I think they should be harder. I'll use the word I need to use, but harder on people who bash horses than harder on someone who does that 12 or 15
But
times.
if there's a number, they have to work within that number.
No one handled that badly, but I also think that had Todd not broken the rule, and Natalie did break the rule by 2, and not particularly big strikes, and she loses the cup, well, that's farcical.
Yeah.
And
Well, it can't happen.
Exactly. So I think it was pretty well handled. As I said, the one thing that nobody feels comfortable with, and no one's ever going to feel comfortable with anymore, because when you saw those historics from the cup in the old days, some of them used to cop it.
Yep.
And I think these days they don't cop it, and that's a step in the right direction.
That's pretty much a wrap on the New Zealand Cup of 2018, but a young lady who had her first steer in the great race gave us her time as well to give us an insight into what it was like for her.
Well, Sheree, you've had your first opportunity to drive in a New Zealand Cup. How was it?
Yeah, it was an awesome experience, mate. I mean, the atmosphere was just amazing, and I mean, going out onto the track with the national anthem playing was just so amazing, and I mean, being out there with some top drivers and also some great horses, it was a great experience. Yeah, loved it.
Okay, how did Lockburn get on?
Yeah, he stepped away nice. There was some hot early speed, and he held his own sort of thing, and ended up full back the fence. And I mean, at the finish as well, he held his own and finished on a right.
35th running of the Macmillan Equine Feed Sires Stakes. We need to have a look at what is the ultimate early season race for the 3-year-olds, and Ultimate Sniper, unbeaten going into this. He had to be better than them, and he was.
And came at him. Jesse Duke on the far side. Ultimate Sniper and Jesse Duke, they've got it between them. Ultimate Sniper, he's ahead in front. Ultimate Sniper, he's a gun. That is a gun win. Ultimate Sniper, he won the Sires final. Beat Jesse Duke and Eisenberg.
So emulating what his full brother did a couple of years earlier, Ultimate Sniper. Natalie Rasmussen going back to back to back in this race, and he was... I thought at that stage, that'll be the best performance I saw all week, but as we know, a few others probably superseded that.
Gee, he was good though, unbeaten, and they went very, very quick. If they went 4 seconds slower there, you'd go, okay, he got round in the middle stages and it was a nice, easy kill. There was nothing easy about this. He's not going to need to improve much to be an open class horse. He can already run open class times. The horses who win the Sire Stakes just go on to be good horses. They just do. Even the ones who don't look that impressive doing it go on to be good horses, but not many look this impressive. This ranks alongside Lazarus's win 3 years ago in very similar fashion, where he sat parked and outstayed them. Now, I'm not saying this horse is going to be Lazarus because that's an awfully large mountain to climb, but the sky is the limit, Greg, quite clearly for this horse. I presume he's now favourite for every good 3-year-old race that's coming up. A lot depends later in life, Greg, on how much they grow and furnish and their manners. And for horses like his older brother, how their joints hold together.
He's a different shape, isn't
Exactly.
he?
I put that to Mark Purden. I said, are you more confident this horse will hold together? And he said, yes, he's better conformed. So, great race, really exciting. And special mention to John Dunn for the way he drove the leader. Robert said before the race, we're going to lead and we're not going to hand up. And their lack of fear of the all-powerful All-Stars is crucial to harness racing, particularly at the moment.
Yeah, and going forward, absolutely it is. The start of the race was always going to be crucial. Where they would land in this race would probably determine where they finished, of course. Outside of Ultimate Sniper, who we knew would be able to move. Wardan Delight out wide had a real kick off the gate, and he showed good acceleration, didn't he?
He did, and harness racing is beautifully set up for this drone footage. Gee, it comes across well on harness racing because the starts are so crucial, and it's like a game of chess and you get to watch it all happen. And
he nearly got there, Tim, didn't he?
He
really buzzed.
On this view here,
you think?
it doesn't look like he's going to cross them at all. But from the drone footage, you saw that he was actually a length in front of him at some stage.
And here was the other crucial part, getting to the trail was Mark Purdon and the eventual runner-up Jesse Duke, and just getting a little bit rough there stars
He got fined for that, Mark Purdon, for making a gap. But as far as I'm concerned, a driver should be allowed to make a gap if somebody's not keeping up. The one going forward should have the option. Here's the finish, and it's not dissimilar to the New Zealand Cup finish. He's playing the Tiger Tara role, the tough horse role, but the difference is this time, the horse outside the leader gets the job done. He's a very good horse. I'll be honest, I'm not sure how good a crop this is, because the best 2-year-old from last season, another masterpiece, has yet to come back because he went to the Breeders' Crown, and I didn't think it was a great crop last season, but you never know where they're going to end up in the mix. I think there's a lot of good horses in there, but he is clearly better than them at the moment.
Yep, Mighty Flying Art into 4th, great work Murray Brown, and also having Brett Barclay at the carnival. We love seeing the Southerners up there. Let's hear from the Beaten Brigade in behind this smart 3-year-old.
Had a nice run, Matt, and had his chance, but just got beat by a better horse on the day.
Robert, let's start off with Heisenberg. Your thoughts on his run?
Yeah, an outstanding run really, Matt. He did a bit of work early, and Johnny just got, when Tim came round with Water and Delight, he just got a little bit keen from then onwards, and of course down the back he was trucking at 54 and 50 something rather speed, and he just couldn't rate him that well. 26.8 down the back just really cost him a little bit towards the finish, but you know, an outstanding performance we thought.
Stars tonight, the second of your runners. 6 months' time could be a pretty exciting time for this horse.
Absolutely. He got checked early, he would have been in the trail otherwise, and he lost his rhythm. And then the last turn he lost his rhythm again, and Ross had to just sort of nurse him all around the bend, but he got going again and battled on. He would have been 4th easy if he hadn't have lost the balance, and so it was a great run by him, and as you said, 6 months, looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely wrapped with his run. He came to the fore really good, and we couldn't be more happy with him. Hopefully he just keeps improving.
Yeah, like run 6, Matty obviously copped a bit of a check halfway down the back, and we're sort of on the back foot from there, and the sectionals they run on the way home, I thought, you know, found the line pretty well, but yeah, obviously we were chasing.
Yeah, he just left the gate just average, and I ended up 3 wide, had to go and sit parked, and then 3 back on the outside, and he just ducked out on the back straight when I pulled him out to go around Coxie, and he locked wheels, so that was sort of the end of him.
So that's a wrap on the Sire Stakes for 2018, and like Michael said, so often the winner, or even those just in behind going forward, go on to bigger and better things. A horse that continues to do it at Group 1 level, of course, is Speeding Spur, his 8th success. Look, it wasn't his most dominant, Michael, but you can only win, and the little horse just with the stretched out neck, he just tries so hard, doesn't he?
Very brave on this occasion. This was the entree to the main course coming up on Friday. We'll show that later. Look, I thought he was good and professional, but I thought Woodstone was the run of the race quite clearly. Outstanding Woodstone on that occasion, and what I take out of that is 2 things. Speeding Spur is going to the Inter-Dominions and will be a factor there because he has gate speed, and Woodstone is going to be a horse who plays a role in an open class race of some note either this season or next season. I reckon he's close to the most popular standardbred in the country, Speeding Spur.
Yeah,
pretty darn good.
He tries so hard. A great effort by Jim Curtin with Laleva's gift. So Group 1 place mare now. That only enhanced her time going to the broodmare. And she was already beautifully bred anyway.
And she's a nice size, so she'll make a nice broodmare. Like, you know, she'll produce those big foals. Look, I thought it was a good race. I still think we need to rejig where the race sits because so many horses who turn up for the Friday race didn't turn up for this race. But that's not to detract from the performance of the winner because, as I said, he's very close to $1 million now. He's going to get there, and he'll probably get there in Victoria at some stage over the next 2.5 weeks. Start of the race crucial. Wilma's mate, who may go to the Inter-Dominions, had a little gallop, but she was better on the second day. And Le Monde was the disappointment because he sat in the trail, didn't corner up, but ironically we'll see a better version of him later in the week. But it's hard to get too involved in this race, Craig, because we had something 3 times more valuable.
Yeah, exactly.
3 days later.
Yep, for sure. One race which I'd love to see value-wise go up is the next we'll have a look at, and it is the Laura Ferguson Trust Junior Free-for-All. When you consider, Michael, that Adore Me, the fixer, Have Faith in Me, who won a Miracle Mile, those previous 2 won Cups, of course. Dream About Me won the Auckland Cup. They've won this race 4 out of the last 5 years. A good form race.
Yeah, and this version of it was won by the run. The early sort of ducks and drakes ended up with this horse in the trail. I'm not entirely sure about this horse. He's obviously open class material, make no mistake about that, but I think on the second day he had a chance to win a race that he probably should have won. I'm not sure whether he backed up, and I'm not slagging the horse at all, but the bar is set so high for this race, at the expectation, that often the winner of this race could go into the free-for-all, great vision this, or could go into the Auckland Cup and would be close to favourite. Like Iraklis won this race, for example.
Iraklis Yorkstar won this race.
But if this horse was in the Auckland Cup market, it'd be 25 to 1. He's still got a bit to prove. He's only a young horse. I'm not saying he won't.
Sicario was good. Patsolite was very good.
Well, and I think they have more or bigger immediate futures, but maybe he just didn't back up on the second day. I'm not sure, but
Ali Mack did.
I think the run he got won him the race.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that at all. But they're all close up. That's Pat's Delight, 4 out. Ali Mack dropping to the inside there, and we know what she ended up doing by winning on Showday, and we'll have a look at that a little bit later on. But it was all you need is faith. Of course, Dennis Dunford couldn't be there, but I'm sure he enjoyed it.
And he won 2 on the day,
that's
which
right.
is a huge deal. Just to have a horse running on Cup Day is a big deal for lots of people.
To win a couple of races, yeah, absolutely.
Twin 2's pretty cool.
Yep, that certainly was. So that was a close finish there, and a brilliant.
What else
win
caught
by
your
him.
attention on Cup Day? What were the other things that? Because I read the paper the next day, look at the results, because it's just a blur, and you go, oh, that was pretty cool. Well, I tell you, it was cool. The first race was cool.
Yeah, close finish.
It was cool because someone like Bruce Negus isn't a big name trainer these days, but when a smaller stable, and Bruce has plenty of numbers, I'm sure, wins a race like that, and a smaller name driver, it's part of the fabric of harness racing. You need those points of difference.
It did set the tone for the day, and we'll have a look back at some of the other memorable moments from the Cup Carnival shortly. One of those, when we come back, a man who described himself as an amateur took out the big Group 1 feature on Showday. Come and see us when we take that in.
There is no more incredible man on this earth.
It is Mark Cooler at the 100-metre mark. Take a bow, Clinchboard. Take a bow, Kentford. High Valley Blue has run to second. What a win by Mark Cooler.
Let's move to the Friday and the feature, of course. The Use to Me at Hara's Dominion, and this race was always going to be a classic contest, mainly because of the evenness, Michael. There were several winning chances.
Size of the field, depth of the field. A lot of the horses missed Tuesday to be here. And look, Greg, once it panned out the start the way it did so nicely for great things happen, all the aces were in his favour. And the horses at the back were going to be in a world of pain after the slow first mile. Well, that sort of changed on the back straight when Markula launched on one of the great, probably 1,000 or maybe even 800 metre bursts in the history of trotting in this country. It was beautiful to watch.
The man sitting in the bike described himself as an amateur, and we've got the opportunity to go out and get an insight as to why he thinks this. He's at his day job, Clint Ford. Clint, thanks so much for your time. Have you come down from the highs of winning the New Zealand Cup of Trotting last Friday? Because it must have been an amazing feeling.
Yeah, that's right, Greg. I came down pretty quickly, actually. I had to go to work on Saturday morning and do a wee job, but we managed to go down to the local pub on Saturday night and celebrate with some of the guys down there.
You were pretty emotional after it. It had been a big week for you. Tell us about the nerves leading into this race. I mean, you'd won a couple of derbies at Group 1 level, but this race was definitely another level, wasn't it?
Yeah, well it's the best you could get. It's a pinnacle for the trotter. The derbies were younger horses, didn't have the older, hardened open class trotters in with us, even though there was a few that had qualified to become the open trotter. But it was pretty awesome to be in, and I realised the heritage, the history of the race. I'd watched a lot of footage from over the years, and realised that it's only the best horses, the best drivers in the race.
More about the race in a moment. Let's talk about where you are now. So, Ford Contracting, you move a lot of earth clearly, you've got quite a big digger behind you, and you're at a bit of a historical place there today as well.
Yeah, well, this is the training establishment of the late Mike Austin, and he's trained a lot of the trotting class of horse, more so than the pacers, and he's trained here for a number of years. As far as I was aware, I've done a few jobs for Mike over the years, graded his racetrack up and put top on it, and now it's come time to develop it up.
Clint, you said a couple of times over the last couple of years with Mark Cooler that you weren't going to drive him forever, and now you've gone as high as you can possibly go. There's nothing bigger or richer than winning the Dominion in this part of the world. Just told Gregory after the race that might be your last race drive. Are you regretting that? Is that true? Are you going to give up? Is this, well, you're finished now?
Well, we'll probably have to watch this space a bit, Mick. I've had a lot of people congratulating me and texters and phone messages. One from Karen O'Connor, Greg's wife, saying to stick with the ship. But I'm not sure. I'll have to see what's happening, and obviously if I don't want to drive him, Shree will get the net. She'll get the option. She might want to stay with her drive, Amaretto's son, which, if you look back, even though it probably didn't look so good on TV, the stats showed that he had the third fastest mile rate. So, he would have been right there with a run.
Clint, that raises a very important question we need to clarify now. Does Greg's wife text you a lot? Or is this just a one-off thing?
I need to know this.
Usually, when Greg forgets to, we have to come and do a job for him.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I think she's telling them what to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's move away from that. Go back to the horse and the admiration you have for Mark Cooler, because he's come back from some pretty low places, hasn't he? He was a pretty sick horse there for a while.
Yes, this time last year it was pretty disappointing. We didn't really know where we were with him. He was obviously pretty sick. He had caught a crack in each front foot, and I believe that he was suffering from stomach ulcers. Probably put a fair bit of pressure on him as a 4-year-old and early 5-year-old, and then after he failed in the free-for-all last year, we put him aside, out for 6 months to the day, and during that time it's taken him 4 to 5 months to actually pick up and start reacting as if he was getting over something, and then we started jogging him up, and we've taken our time with him, spaced his races, and he's come back as big and better than what he was.
Clint, we were lucky enough to do a story on your family leading into the race, and after winning it last year with a $90 shot, I suppose it was even a bigger dream to think you could win it back to back. But what I did notice about this horse, it's a beautiful horse to do anything with, and that's going to, his racetrack performance is going to attract a few people to him being a stallion, but he's a beautifully natured horse, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, Greg. He's pretty cool. Around the barn, he doesn't miss a beat. He looks up ears pricked at everything that walks past them or around him. You sort of can't sneak up on him very easily. He's pretty aware of everything, and as you say, he's got a great temperament and lovely to do anything to, really, or with.
Clint, we've got some footage here of you just driving around the grass paddock, and often there's sheep and all sorts of rabbits running around. It doesn't bother him. He loves it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He likes. I think he likes just trotting around on the grass, something different from the monotonous running around on the grit in circles. So I'd actually like a track to go right around the whole property, which is a 100-acre farm there. I think that would be quite cool.
Clint, you've chosen not to go to the Inter-Dominion. Of course, you could have late nominated him to try and get there. What do you do now with the horse, and how much does that potential future stallion career play into your mind? Because obviously to make him a true stallion commercially, you're probably going to need to win a decent race in Australia.
Well, we've thought about that, and we've decided to miss the Inter-Dominions this year anyway, and go forward at this stage to Auckland, and then after the Auckland Carnival we'll come back home and I'd imagine target the Great Southern Star in February.
A real family occasion, of course. Winning this with your dad's name as the trainer and obviously in the ownership with you made it a really special time for the family. Back-to-back special times. Here's Lockie sitting in the cart with you, and of course he was part of the kids' carts during the day. And yeah, it was stuff that your family will never ever forget.
No, that's right. It's once in a lifetime sort of drama, I'd imagine. We were lucky enough to do it twice within 12 months. Yeah, so it's just the sort of thing that dreams are made of, and just great fun, great buzz, great to be part of.
All right, Clint, mate, congratulations. A lot of people have given you a hard time about your driving over the years. I am one of those. You proved us wrong last week. I'll leave you this one question, yes or no. I'm not sure if you even know the answer, so if you don't know the answer, you can pass. In 2 weeks' time, if Mark Cooler comes to Alexandra Park for the Lyell Creek, will you be driving him?
Do you want my political answer, or do you want my honest answer?
Clint, it's your show, it's your digger, you answer it however you want.
To be quite honest, we'll just have to see and wait, and yeah, 2 weeks is a long time in racing, as you know, and I'll get over what's happened last week, and we'll go forward and see where we are.
Thank you, Steve Henson, for that answer. That was very, very political. Clint, thanks for joining us, mate. Congratulations. I hope you enjoyed the amazing experience, and get back to work. You've got a day job to take care of.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Yeah, good on him.
Will he be driving the horse at Alexandra? We both know the answer to this.
Yeah.
He will be.
Yeah, of course he will be. Rugby racing beer epitomises what Clint Ford is. He was a really good rugby player and got injured. Obviously his sister played for New Zealand. You know, they're a good sporting family, and they're a very good trotting training family.
Almost cost him the drive. He's playing touch on Wednesday night. I'm not sure this is how touch is supposed to work, but he hurt his leg really badly, got carried off the field, and he thought he couldn't drive in the race. And he said to me it actually helped because he got quite nervous in the week leading up to the race. And once you get hurt, as you know, all you think about is the fact you've hurt. And he sort of said afterwards, I didn't think about it for 2 days. And then we got to the race, and it was a great performance. It actually wasn't a pretty drive, but it was a thing of beauty because he trusted his horse. I wasn't sure we'd ever see that version of Mark Cooler again. I really doubted it. I thought last year, I thought he was being either a cat or he was bleeding because he wasn't trying. But as it turns out, there's a very good chance that it's those quarter cracks. And here it is at the back of the field. Those quarter cracks, Greg, I think you can't underestimate how much they affect horses' confidence.
Well, it's a stone in the shoe scenario, and it hurts. And you see there, Anthony Budd actually got warned for half carting, and Clint went to come out and try and suck Anthony in front of him. Didn't do that for him, so he had to go himself. And right at this point, he just launched him. He was off, and I can remember them getting to the 400 and thinking, my God, Clint, I hope you've got this right, because you are going to get lambasted if this doesn't come off. And when he gets round the bend into the straight, you see him have a really big look, and he's like, these horses should be getting closer to me, but they're not.
Anybody who's listened to me burble on for these shows for years knows that my greatest belief is that when these stallions are injury-proof and they're healthy, they can do things that normal horses can't do, and this is one of those performances. He's got out there and he's full of testosterone and he's arrogant, and he's just taken off and he's just thought, I'm out of here, you can just get knotted. And the rest of these horses are made to look average, and they're not average horses. Kai Valley Blur, really good in second. Let's not forget he's 11 years old, and Le Monde significantly better on the second day than he was on the first day. But it's a great story for the Ford Tomlinson family, and Ken Ford has been in racing for that long, Greg, and had lots of good results, and all of a sudden he trains back-to-back Dominions with two different horses who, depending when you back them, the double could have paid 2,400 to 1.
Of course, they've had success in Australia. Zuri went over there. I think Aramid might have gone as well earlier on, but they'll take the horse to Australia, like I say, they're really going to have
Great
to.
Southern Star's 300k, that's February, March, and gate speed this horse has got, so there's a whole lot of reasons you've got to take him, but he's now got a chance at a commercial stallion career. We don't have many trotters in this part of the world who have commercial stallion careers. The main one obviously being Sundong. Call Me Now was slightly usable, but there haven't been many. He goes over there and wins a Great Southern Star, and he's a chance, you know, of having a crack at stud. So,
and obviously Speeding Spur is so much closer to $1 million now.
And also Speeding Spur's the other one who's got that stud career, and they're very differently bred horses. So, yeah, there's a little ray of hope there at some stage that we are going to have a couple of domestic bred commercial stallions in the next couple of years.
He did thank Clint quite a few people, the likes of Anthony Butt, Mark Jones, who gave him advice, and a whole lot of other people, the Shin brothers, who, you know, he's asked them different things about horses over the years, and it was, I suppose, a little bit ironic that he'd beat Anthony Butt home, but let's hear from him and the other beaten drivers.
Yeah, went great, Matt. Yeah, got a pretty good run. You know, the draw made it hard. He got back early, but got a good cut into it. But Tommy was out and running, the leader had gone. So, but really happy with the run.
Morris Le Monde, much better today?
Yeah, he was a lot better. He felt a different horse today. So, yeah, that run's cleaned him up, and he drove a bit better too. So, no, very happy with him.
Yeah, no, not too bad. Winner was great on the day, and you know, I sort of felt like I was going good down the back. I managed to get on Mark Caller's back, but he was sort of trucking away, you know. But yeah, probably the last quarter we're probably doing our best work. Probably can't put our finger on it yet, but yeah, we'll get him home and see how he is.
Tony, your thoughts on Temporale?
Yeah, he just battled a little bit, Matt. I thought he just might have been able to see it out a bit better. In saying that, he probably hadn't had a race for a month, and it just might have just had a little setback. Over 2 miles, might have just found him out in the end. So, yeah, so hopefully he'll be right for Auckland.
Yeah, pretty disappointing, but I didn't drive him that good. I thought the front would be there easy, but I was made to work a bit hard. Over 2 miles, that comes to play at the end, but he's come back in afterwards and blowing snot all through his water bucket, and his heart rate was 126 after 10 minutes. It was still 126, and after another 10 minutes, it's still 120. So, unfortunately, between work and Monday, when he felt terrific, and Friday, he's picked something up, and yeah, just disappointed it on a big day.
Yep, definitely disappointing for last season's New Zealand trotting free-for-all winner. Michael, the question now is, where are all these horses going?
Okay, so we've run everybody involved. The only person who we couldn't get hold of for the open class horses of either grade was Greg Hope, and he's obviously pretty busy at the moment. So into Dominions, Speeding Spur goes to the Inter Dominion, as does Alderbeck and Monty Python. Speeding Spur, they've changed the rules so he can leave next Wednesday, which is good. The two Phil Williamson horses, Anthony Butt will drive in the heats and have choice of the final. The rankings came out this morning. Wilma's Mates ranked 25th. That is first emergency for the trotting series. They may send her from Paul Nairn to Brent Lilly. Wouldn't be surprised to see her stay on there and then head to Menangle. Auckland, Cambridge, we know Mark Calder is coming. Le Monde is up there, of course. Temporale, yes. Hey Yo, Jack Harrington is sending her north. Woodstone will come part of a large Robert Dunn team for the north, and Ronald J coming up for Paul Nairn. great things happen, has a respiratory infection, as we just heard. So these are the sidelined horses. Staying home, Harriet of Mott will stick closer to home, and just getting into the paces there, by the way, too. Star Galleria has had a throat operation. Had the
not a major.
Yeah, intract epiglottis, which is by no means a big deal. He can start back work this Saturday. So they did that last Thursday, and Ultra Orlando spoke to Robert Dunn, and he said, look, he'll stay home, have a decent spell, and then come back for the autumn races after a pretty busy spring. So that's where the trotters are going. The market is open for the Inter-Dominion Speeding Spur and the two Phil Williamson's horses guaranteed. Wilma's Mate, I think, will probably make the fields, but as of the rankings this morning, was sitting 25th. There's 2 heats of 12 there, so she needs to make it into the 24.
Thank you for that, Michael. The next generation of the Ford family were to the fore again, not winning the Kids Karts final, but here's Lockie, and some great footage we had of him in the sulky, and may we see this in the next decade at Addington Raceway to emulate what his father just achieved. And the speed race of the week for New Zealand Cup week, of course, is the Woodlands New Zealand Free for All. We had quite a few returning from the Cup, one of which led here, Michael Cruz Bromack, and he did what he did back in April, to be fair, in the Len Smith Mile.
Yeah, this was the race of the week where the closer you got to it, the more people were like, hold on, we might have stuffed this up, because Tiger Tara was so good on the Tuesday and Turn It Up won in such a low grade, and they were the two favourites, and then people started to go, hold on, Cruz Bromack was really good in the Cup and it won the Len Smith Mile, and this might just lead here. Okay, and $8 became $3.90 really quickly, and at the halfway stage, here he is at the start, he's just got quick acceleration off the gate, and once Natalie makes her mind up in these situations, Greg, she's very obstinate. She just doesn't change her mind, just keeps going forward, and other drivers know that. And once he led here, and Tiger Tara didn't go the early attack, gee, this was a comfortable watch. Now, here he is, he's cruising clear. He's going to go to the Inter-Dominions, Greg.
He's $6 there.
He's got gate speed. He's probably a better big track horse than a small track horse, but he's also a very good trainer now. We've seen him come from off the speed. Turn It Up was excellent in second. Jack's Legend really good in third. The big question mark around the race was Tiger Tara. Underperformed, not a little bit, massively. One of the worst of his career. Kevin Pizzuto, his trainer, who's been great with the media for a long time, suggested the horse had too much grass between Wednesday and Friday.
I'm not convinced.
It must have eaten
that.
a lot of grass.
What's it
It must
mean?
have mowed a paddock. So I'm not sure what happened there.
Oh, like he was tired, Michael.
But
Let's be fair.
Look, that's what I would think, but he just doesn't get tired because he's gone that big in the Cup before and backed up better. Admittedly, he didn't back up awesomely last year, but that was
better than that.
That was way too bad. So willing to forgive Tiger Tara, but you sure can't back him in the Inter-Dominion. He's dropping out of the picture. We need a bigger drone. But Cruz Bromack was really good. And I think this is one of those races where a lot of punters watch it, and then they go back to Tuesday and go, gee, he was a touch unlucky in the cup.
Well, he was. He got rough about the 150, and talking with Mark later in the week, he said, if he hadn't have done that, I would have got a lot closer. It might have made it interesting.
He's clearly the best New Zealand chance at the Inter-Dominion because he's been there before. As I said, he can get a little bit rocky in his gait on tighter tracks, but he's getting older, and he got round Kaikoura all right. So he's got lots of positives, including the fact that he's a Purden Rasmussen horse. Turn It Up was simply a case of the hype getting bigger than the horse of where he is now. He's going to be a top open class horse, but Greg...
Well, he's going to Auckland, isn't he?
How he ended up in the market opening as short as Tiger Tara and 3 times shorter than this horse was just a mistake. Sometimes the bookies give you a chance, and on this occasion they did with Cruise Bromac. But I thought lots of good runs in behind, though, from horses, most of whom are going to end up in Auckland.
So let's hear from the drivers who had the steer on those.
Mark, you asked the question of Turn It Up today. What did you get out of it?
Well, he delivered. I was very, very pleased with him. First time in that company, I didn't know what to expect, but round the corner when Tiger Tara was getting tired, he felt terrific.
Okay, so with Cruise Bromac and Turn It Up, what are your plans with them?
Well, Cruise Bromac will go through to the Inter-Dominions, and Turn It Up probably will just keep him in maybe the race like the Auckland Cup and a couple of 4-year-old races up in Auckland as well.
Yeah, look, I thought he tried hard. He got a lovely run. There's no excuses, but you know, he went good. He kept going, so it was a good solid effort.
What are your plans with him now?
Oh, we'll just freshen him up a bit and get him ready for the Auckland Cup.
Yeah, no, he went really good, Matt. Absolutely wrapped with his run. He's got more gate speed to show today. He sort of run out a wee bit and you know, buggered himself up from going out harder, but he'll get better. And the way he ran on, I thought was just super.
Lovely run, Matt. Obviously done a little bit early and got in a good spot, but you know, he's hit the line well, and you know, first time against those real good ones, so really happy.
Yeah, look, Matt, you know, we followed Spankham and he brought us into the race, but you know, he felt good round the corner, but unfortunately, you know, when we asked him to produce, he never let down like he felt, so you know, maybe he was just feeling the effects from Tuesday.
Yeah, probably just didn't quite back up from the Tuesday. I think that was such a gutsy effort on Tuesday, and it probably just told on him. But today he's blown up a little bit over his back and stuff. So there could be a little bit. He might have had a little bit of a bug or somewhere through the week. But you know, Kel will probably pull some bloods on him and find out where he's at. But a little bit disappointing today. I think everyone knows that he's best. He's a lot more competitive than that. So disappointing, but hopefully get him home and get him back to his best and go from there.
But didn't he add so much to the carnival having him here? And you wouldn't say no to him coming back next year, to be fair.
No, and look, he can still win the Inter-Dominion, just not on that run, on the Cup run, of course. Here's the Inter-Dominions. Cruise Bromac is going, as is Pat's Delight. So Crandell Getty said, look, I think the Inter-Dominion's going to be weaker than Auckland. When you look at the other part of that page, you can see why. Spankham, Mark and Natalie had a couple of days off this week. They're going to decide on him. I think if they're taking one, they might take 2 because they're taking a whole truckload to Auckland. Alta Maestro staying south. He races in the Geraldine Cup on Saturday. Let's Spend a Night Together is also staying in the south. Auckland and Cambridge, predominantly Auckland will be the fixer. Dream About Me, Eamon Maguire, Turn It Up. Chase Auckland will go there, but not for the Auckland Cup at this stage. He'll probably race Auckland Cup night, then head to the Futurity at Cambridge early January, because that would qualify him for the Chariots of Fire. Ultimate Machete has been on the water walker at Stephen Boyd's for the last week. They're going to assess him when they get him back home. Jack's Legend, as you heard from Barry Purden, goes to the Auckland Cape. And Captain Dolmio, Billy Badger and Zadaka from the Dunn team coming north. The only person we couldn't get hold of was Hopi, as I said, with AG's White Sox. Wouldn't be surprised to see him given a break, Greg. And of course, Forgotten Highway, who was really good in the Cup because he couldn't win a long way from home on Tuesday, also goes to the Geraldine Cup on Saturday.
It must be hard to beat.
Well done to the club there. That's getting a good field. Right, you know as much as we do.
Let's have a look at the undercard for the week. Not all of them, but as many as we can fit in for you. Here was the first race you talked about. In front, Over the Love looked all over the winner. BD Kassan's right there. Ruthless Kayla, but bang, 90 to 1. Sundance Fly, who had won this day the previous year.
Yep, great story. As I said, smaller barn, you know, drivers we don't often see in the winner's circle on Cups Day. Well done to Jessica Young, well done to Bruce. It's just a cool story. Good way to start the day because the rest of the day was dominated by these covers. Yep, here he is. I thought that Slingshot was the horse who went super in the race, having the face of the one who got the win, and this started an 8 out of 9 performance from the All-Stars. I'm not going to rave on about it because some people don't like it. It's just a hell of a thing. It's just an incredible, incredible thing to achieve. Here's Turn It Up, Greg. We all know, after last week, he is a genuine open class horse.
He is, and he'll be very competitive in the Auckland Cup. I think it's a smart move to not take him to the Inter-Dominion. He would have had 3 races in a week plus a final. He's only had 7 race day appearances, and you just know he can only get better. It hurts me that I got him at 500 to 1. I don't think that'll ever happen again in his career again.
No.
But that's life.
Yep, they're making the right choice with him.
Of course they are.
Auckland Cup, it's going to be an awfully big ask because it's an extremely strong race. Gee, it's going to be a strong race. Also, there's some support races from show day to show you. See what I did there?
Yeah, nice work.
Good job, eh?
Oh, here's Ellie Mack.
I didn't think she could beat the boys, not coming from off the speed, Ellie Mack, and that's a big win. She'll head to the Queen of Hearts, which is December 14. And after that, I presume they would probably stick to mainly the mares races, but of course, she's only 4, so she has the 4-year-old Jules she can race through until then, and maybe try and qualify for the Ladyship Mile via the Queen of Hearts, but Dream About Me will be going that same pathway.
She was luckless on Cup Day, finishing in 4th position. Behind All You Need Is Faith. King's Landing landed twice for the punters.
First day, I thought he was just okay. Second day, far more convincing. His improvement curve is so steep at the moment, you just wouldn't know where he's going to end up. And he's qualified for the Jewels already because the amount of money he won last week alone means he'll be turning up at Ashburton, all things being equal, next June.
Beautifully bred out of Picaro,
sorry, my
of
apologies,
course.
not Ashburton. It's an old fault. Addington, of course, the Jewels.
It will be.
My apologies.
Here's Alta Maestro showing really good speed at the end of this race.
One of the best drives of the week. They're going to stick to standing starts as much as they can with this horse because they want to calm him down because, gee, he gets hot. He over races. John needed to drive him inch perfectly and kid to him and make him feel good about life, but not too good. He's an open class horse, Greg, and I don't mean to be disparaging, but I do think long term he's better suited to racing overseas because he's so fast.
Speaking of fast, here's Mossdale Rose. Didn't have the barrier draw to use her early gate speed, but coming off the back here and whooshka for Ricky May. She was quite impressive.
Beautiful drive by Rick. Absolutely inch perfect by Ricky, and good to see the Hopes have some luck last week because they had a pretty tough spring, losing Bombay for another break. AG's White Sox, just nothing's gone right, and they'll be looking forward to getting Ingheim back to the track, but it's a nice consolation.
I know we talked about it during the week, but what was your highlight of the week?
I think maybe Ultimate Sniper for what he could be, but that was until late in the day on Friday. What Mark Coulter did was cool. And Clint's a nice guy, and we're giving him a really hard time about his driving over a long period of time.
No, you have.
No, but lots of other people too. Why was he driving that horse? And it was a cool win, and he drives a digger, and he's a good guy, and his kids love it, and he's only driven 29
Would you like to have a
winners.
go on that digger?
No chance. I would trash something on that digger, but it'd be fun trashing something. But I thought, in many ways, it was my highlight of the week, even though it wasn't the race, which probably means the most for the future going forward. Once in a while, you want to see something just bang, and that was a bang. What about for you?
That was it. Mark Coulter.
Mark Coulter.
I was so pleased, and I suppose for want of a better word, proud that Clint had the confidence to do what he did. And when he got to the 400, I was going, oh, you better got this right. And it was just awesome that he did.
Also, the other thing too is the other three massive wins of the week, the big ones, and we're not talking about Speeding Spur because that was also feel good, were Perd and Rasmussen wins, and you're so used to seeing them win that it doesn't detract from the performance, but the point of difference for the last 2 years in the Dominion for the Ford Tomlinson family have been huge, and I think a point of difference is nice sometimes.
Yeah, it definitely is. We're about to go to another break and take in the Kids Cup, New Zealand Cup, won by Caius and Jordan Bublitz. Congratulations to you, Jordan. It's a big occasion for these young people, and they are the future of our sport. In your home straight, in your box seat, the show day futurity with Graphite Developments, we probably didn't think that it would have so much of a significance as it did on the day. It meant the delay for about a whole race, to be honest, and it happened because of what we're about to show you. A couple of incidents at the start of this race, or in the first couple of 100 metres. There's the first of them, which Samantha Otley was tipped out, but the next and most spectacular was Terry Schmiel getting thrown almost as high as the winning post there, and ultimately getting a pretty severe injury. He's joined us on the phone. Terry, thanks so much for your time. A bit of a frustrating time as well. I understand you haven't had the operation yet. It will happen tomorrow on Thursday, but for all the harness racing fans out there, how are you?
Yeah, no, all good, Greg. Yeah, just frustrating, but no, the doctor's been real good looking after it, so it's all just a waiting game now to get it right, so that's all we can do.
One of those racing incidents, did you see it unfolding in front of you? And tell me, what were you thinking at the height of the almost winning post there at Addington?
Yeah, Robbie sort of went rough 20 metres beforehand, and I sort of looked to move down, but my horse was pretty keen. I wasn't going to get off his back. And the next thing he just dropped, and I was thinking, oh no, so who's behind me? I didn't realise there was another crash, so and I just think, who's going to hit me? And yeah, so I went down. I thought, where am I going to go? I looked up there, and I was pretty high, and the cart I think it halfway drove me into the ground, thing, and landed on my heel. And but I was lucky I didn't land on my neck or my back, so I was pretty lucky that way. So, but I could just remember being up there. I can't actually remember too much about landing, just the pain going through my leg.
Yep, you knew it was going to hurt for sure. Just confirm to us exactly what the injury is.
Well, the heel's pushed through the ankle.
So that sounds like a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, so it's fractured all the ankle and the heel as well. So I don't know what they're doing tomorrow. I don't know if they're just going to pin it up and try to put it back together like a jigsaw puzzle. So yeah, so it wasn't fun. It just all the force must have went onto my heel and just put the pressure. And the track's pretty hard, Greg, I can tell you that.
Well, the great thing about it, Terry, is it could have been a heck of a lot worse. How long do you expect to be out for?
Oh, I'd say 2 months probably, to be fair. Six operation tomorrow, then 6 weeks in a cast, and I suppose physio after that, and just see how it heals. But they did say that probably only 50% chance of getting any movement back in the heel. So, yeah, so it's not too good.
Noodle, when I first saw it, I thought, oh, well, Noodle's played a bit of footy, I'm sure, on the day. I'm sure he's used to a bit of pain. He would have had something similar to this before. I was completely wrong. You've never broken a bone in your body until last Friday. You chose to break one in front of 100,000 people.
Yeah, no, I thought it was pretty tough, Michael. But, yeah, no, I suppose it's a good way to go, is break something in front of people. But, yeah, no, I've never actually broken anything. I was only thinking about a couple of weeks ago, I was just thinking to myself, I said to my son, actually, I said, you know, I've never broken a bone in my body. I said, I must have a hard bone. So, well, I think Karma might have hit me. I shouldn't have said nothing.
No, that's what's called the early crow, Terry. When you go the early crow. Mate, we're glad that nothing worse happened to you, buddy. I know it sucks, and we're looking forward to seeing you back in the sulky, mate, but Greg, it could have been a lot worse.
Yep, it certainly could have. Thanks so much for your time, Terry, and good luck in the rehab.
Yeah, thanks very much, boys.
All right, that was great to have a chat to him too. He is a likeable bloke. And we're
showing you that because none of the horses were injured.
No, and both those Andrew Stewart horses went home in the paddock, had their tea, they were all fine.
And Terry was injured, but obviously you've heard it's not something which is going to affect his ability to work later in his life. So thank you, Terry, for coming on. And whenever you see those things, it's horrible, Greg, but it could have been so much worse.
Yeah, it definitely could have.
Harness racing crashes look worse because there's hopples and horses and metal and sulkies and all sorts of stuff, but it was spectacular stuff. That photo went like the Herald Sun of Melbourne, massive, massive in the Herald, just all on social media. AJ Berry captured it remarkably. Horrible situation. Not a disastrous outcome.
OK, he won't be at Manawatu, wouldn't have been anyway. Alexandra Park, Geraldine, or Banks Peninsula, so plenty of harness racing ahead. The Woodlands stud selections, they got Speeding Spur home in the Group 1. I'm Just Awesome, Tri-Royal Brigade at Invercargill, they've got a driver series there, and Ideal Rule at Geraldine.
And the Australasian Drivers' Chance for the juniors, the youngsters, is on Thursday and Friday out of Queensland. Cherie Tomlinson, Ben Butcher and Alicia Harrison. Well done to you. Good luck, guys, for that. Thursdays and Fridays, it's over pretty quickly out of Queensland.
Here's the selections of our team for the week, so you can make some money. I'm going for Kieran Tomlinson to get her first success with Amaretto Sun, if she hasn't earlier in the day on that day. But we'll update the leaderboard next week. We promise to show you who's in front.
The reason we're not showing you the leaderboard is
because neither of us.
Mark McNamara is leading, and it is heartbreaking. But I can tell you one thing: he did a super job last week.
Yeah,
his commentating was excellent.
It certainly was. Michael, thanks for your input tonight. Hope you've enjoyed your extended box seat wrapping up the Cup Carnival of 2018. We'll see you back to normal 60 minutes in 7 days' time.